Hello and welcome. This is Ashley's Heart Song on the Win Win Women TV network. I'm so happy you're here. This is the place where we get out of the stress and back into our body, our life, and our business. Because y'all, when we tap into the song of our heart, that's when we master the mind and the stress that steals our life. Welcome to today's show. My big question for you today is, do you sometimes wish you hadn't said something that came out of your mouth? Do you sometimes wonder, what was I thinking? Well, y'all, this is all because of how the brain operates. And when we begin to understand what's happening in our brain, we can then be in that state of awareness, which is the first step towards making a shift and making a change. Because sometimes we can stick our foot in our mouth. Sometimes we can say the wrong thing at the wrong time, lash out, react, and not put a pretty spin on something just because of an overreaction that we couldn't hold back. So today we are going to be visiting around a few parts of the brain. So get ready, we're going to get a little sciencey. But then also I'm going to share with you 6 ways and 6 exercises that you can implement into your day that will help you master this tendency to stick your foot in your mouth or react to something that you wish you hadn't. And let's face it, y'all, we all do this, don't we? So when I look at this kind of reaction in my life, I look at, okay, how is my emotional vitality, my mental vitality, physical, spiritual vitality? Where am I on each of those? And have I been neglecting an area of me? Because that's our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual self, which makes up all of who we are as a human being. And when we can pinpoint where we've been neglectful, that is when we can make huge headway in turning things around and creating a shift in our life. So before we get rolling any further, just take a quick second and maybe 10 seconds and write down your vitality score for the week. So today, right here, right now, mentally, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Mentally clear or mentally stagnant? Between 1 and 10, go. 10 being the highest score. That's where you're mentally clear. Emotionally clear, balanced, feel good, or are you emotionally stagnant? Emotionally, ugh. Between 1 and 10, write down your score. Don't judge it, just write it. Physical vitality, where are you today? 10 being you feel strong, you feel mobile, you are just, oh, you've got it all together today. Or are you closer to a 1, which is physically weak, fatigued, wrung out? Where are you on the scale of physical? Write it down. And then your spiritual vitality. Are you connected today? Or are you disconnected? Connected is a 10, disconnected is a 1, and then you can be anywhere in between. Where are you on that spiritual scale? Tally up. And what is your total? 40 is your high count. And being a 40, that means, boy, you're doing really good. Being even a 30 and up, you're doing great. It sounds like you are taking care of business in all 4 quadrants of who you are. If you're below a 30, then there is probably some work to be done, an area that needs a little bit of tender loving care. So today we're going to be talking about the emotional aspect of us. And this is one of those areas where, for us women especially, we're emotional beings. There is no way around that. The feminine, which is a woman, is 80% feminine, 20% masculine in their characteristics. All right, we have 20% of those masculine tendencies so that we are balanced. So our emotions aren't too far off and over the scale. So we are emotional beings, and being that, I think it's important for us to understand what is going on when we all of a sudden lose it, go Mach 10 with our hair on fire. And then in some cases, we can have that fight or flight juice and it benefits us, when in other times it doesn't benefit. So let's break this down a little bit around the brain and what's happening in the brain. But before we do that, I do want to share with you something I found today about balance that I thought was really good, because we tend to want to feel emotionally balanced or just balanced in general. But this quote by Danielle Orner states, "Life is a balance between what we can control and what we cannot. I am learning to live between effort and surrender." I thought that was just so brilliant, because really, when we look at it, when we look at balance and what it really is, balance is never 50-50. I am on the tightrope and there is no wavering. I am balanced. It's not that. That's not real balance. Balance is that give, the flow. Balance is the 70-30 give and take, the 60-40 give and take, the 80-20, 20-80, whatever side it is. And it's just that give and take. It's that flow. That is balance. And so when we release this grip around the control and having the control around our emotions, making sure that we're not emotionally scattered, if we're holding too tight to that, then we're never going to find that balance. But if we can let go and surrender and just accept, okay, I'm an emotional being. So what do I do about that? How do I become emotionally intelligent to where I am in balance, so to speak, right? So I find that for me personally, when it comes to the emotional part, because I can be an emotional person, um, woman, human being, I can. And I find, in fact, this weekend, y'all, it was so much fun. So, you know how things are carrying along and it's really good. And then all of a sudden something triggers you, and you find yourself in an argument that you had never intended to go into, but all of a sudden you were triggered and you find yourself in the middle of an argument. That happened to me this weekend. And I'm sitting there, standing there in disbelief, going, oh my gosh, what just happened? What hijacked me to get inside of a argument, I guess is what it would be called, when not 5 seconds before that, I was at complete peace, having a wonderful time, at ease. What happened? What transpires? So when we look back at situations like that, and I want you to recall a situation that you've been in where all of a sudden you found yourself heated for some reason. Mach 10, what was it? What can you think back to find what was the trigger that sent you over? What felt threatening? Now, we have a part of our brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala cannot tell if this is a physical threat or an emotional threat, mental threat. It just can't, God love it. All it feels is a threat. It cannot determine what it is. That is for the thalamus to take that information into our prefrontal cortex, right? This is our thinking mind. This is our decision maker right here in the front, the forehead, the frontal cortex. This is where we make our decisions, where we think through logically, and it's up to our thalamus to get that information that the amygdala takes in. For the thalamus to, it's the gateway to send it over to the prefrontal cortex so that the decision making can take place. Well, that takes 6 seconds, y'all. Who here has been grounded by the 6 seconds? The 6 seconds sometimes just doesn't happen fast enough. And we end up finding ourselves, like I did, in the middle of a reaction and defense, and the argument came after. So what do we do? What do we do about this? How do we take advantage of those 6 seconds? How do we stop that reaction? How do we become the masters of our mind in moments like this? These are questions for you to ask yourself. How can I become the master of my mind so that I don't get carried away inside of a situation that really doesn't warrant an argument or to feel defensive? Because stress and that fight or flight. So the amygdala, once that perceived threat comes in, the amygdala all of a sudden says, okay, here you go. Here's the hormone dump. Here's the cortisol, the epinephrine. Here's everything you need to be able to get through all the adrenaline. You need to get through this stressful threat so that you can stay alive. And once that dump has happened, it's difficult to backtrack out of that, isn't it? That's where, if we can just take a pause, just pause, understand what's happening. So if you know what's physically happening, physiologically happening, then we're aware and we go, oh, I feel the dump happening. So now what do? Oh, I just pause. I pause. We talked about this, I think, several shows ago, where we can just stop and pause. And this is where, with my clients, I take them through an emotional resolution process. But if you don't know emotional resolution, then you can pause and just wait. You can pause and wait and just let those 6 seconds pass so that information can come into the frontal cortex so that you can make a decision on how threatening is this really? Is it just an ego threat, or is it a real life and death threat where you need that adrenaline, cortisol, that wonderful recipe that gives us Herculean strength, clear thinking, space between thoughts, reactionary, where it's just split-second reactions that we love. I was in a car accident one time, about a year ago or more, several years ago now. And I was on the highway in this accident. And as I am driving along, and I'm okay, I'm relaxed, I'm playing some beautiful harp music in the background. And actually, I had been, and then at the moment, I'm talking to my sister. So, of course, I'm in a place of fun and laughter in that conversation. So, I'm in a complete relaxed state. And maybe you can relate with me on this, especially on highway driving. But I'm driving along and I'm in the lane next to the wall. And there is an on-ramp 3-4 lanes over. And there's a police officer in one of those big, heavy expedition kind of vehicles. Maybe it's an Explorer kind of vehicle, but they're big, they're real heavy. They make those cars so heavy. And he's in that far lane, but there's somebody coming on the off-ramp. Don't know what they were thinking, but from the corner of my eye, I see them. They put on the accelerator and they plow right into that police officer, right into the back end of that police officer. They must have been looking like this the whole time that they plowed right into him. So out of the corner of my eye, I see this police officer coming right at me because it turns his vehicle to where he's nosing. He's coming right for me. And it's so interesting because I've never, I've experienced a stress response like this one other time. And that was when my son was standing out on the roof at the age of 18 months in his diaper. But anyway, that's for another time. So he's coming at me, and all I remember hearing my brain say was, oh no, oh no. But my reactions within my body, the stress response that shot through me, allowed me to maintain hands on the steering wheel, knowing what I needed to do, stay off the wall. I remember that thought going through, just stay off the wall. Whatever you do, just stay off the wall. And that police officer did a great job of turning his wheel to where he just barely, he nudged into me, but then bounced right off. And I think he hit me maybe twice and then bounced off. He did a really great job of staying off of me and not hurting me. And when I think back to that kind of reactionary response that my body had in a stressful situation, I was so grateful because I could think clear. My reactions were spot on accurate. Nothing harmful happened to me or the officer. So, and we're going highway speeds. So thank goodness we have that type of stress chemistry that is spewed off at just the right time. However, when it's in a situation like I was in on Saturday, where it's just a conversation, and I all of a sudden find myself in that moment, what triggered that? It wasn't like I saw a physical threat coming up out of the corner of my eye like I did on the highway. It was something that was said that triggered my subconscious mind to feel the threat. The subconscious mind went, oh, I know exactly how you like to respond in a situation when something like this is said to you. I know exactly the way you like to respond because of something that happened 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, maybe even more decades ago. But it's stored in the subconscious mind. And so therefore it gave me that chemistry to save my life because I was threatened at the time. No, y'all. What are we going to do in situations like this? How can we stop that? How can we stop that? I want to call it a madness, because when you go out into the world, that's what you see a lot. You see a lot of the reactions on the highway, people getting angry at other people. It's that reaction that there's no control. There's no 6-second waiting for it to go to the decision maker of the frontal cortex. So as women who are aware, as women who are wanting to improve ourselves and make ourselves better, make ourselves stronger, make ourselves more emotionally and mentally on point, what can we do on a daily basis to look after our patterns, to look after what's happening so that we can become more of the masters of our emotional responses? Because this is about our suppressed emotions, the emotions that have triggered in the past, and we suppress them so that it was stored in the mind. That's what we're working with here. And so when we're looking at that, we want to look at the awareness, the self-awareness. Where are we in space right now with our thoughts, with our emotions, with our physical being, our presence? Self-awareness is the first step that you can take to begin sidelining that reaction to where you can wait the 6 seconds so you can make a clear, more impactful decision and response in everyday living. Self-regulation, this is like the emotional resolution that I speak to. Emotional resolution is when we give the body-mind complex a moment to eliminate the stress chemistry that was triggered by the subconscious mind as a threat that was triggered. There's that emotional dump. And we want to give our body-mind complex enough time to clear that out. This actually transforms the neuroplasticity of your brain. You improve your brain, you clear up neural pathways that are no longer serving you, and you create neural pathways that do serve you. So emotional resolution is a huge key player in your ability to master your mental and emotional being. Motivation, in Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence, it's why it's more powerful and more important than IQ, which is fascinating read. But he talks about motivation within oneself, to find what motivates you. And what I like to do is find what inspires you, so you live according to that highest good for yourself, instead of that day-to-day living like you can't get ahead. So you want to be motivated and inspired by something greater than yourself, so that those little things that come at you, don't send you off course. Empathy is another one that Daniel Goleman in his book mentions. Empathy for self, but empathy for others. When we can understand and relate to where someone else is coming from, we have a tendency to not go into that reactionary measure. We tend to not take it as a threat because we've hopped into the empathy role where we are relating to how they feel in their position. And that right there, having empathy can elevate your emotional intelligence tenfold. Social skills, knowing how to communicate and relate to other people. And if communication is one of those areas that you find is a trigger for you, because you feel like you're not being able to speak clearly, or you're not understanding what the other person is, or you feel like you're not being understood, then learning how to communicate, taking courses, reading about it. I believe that empathy plays a key role in better communication skills. And so up-leveling those social skills and how you relate to others can also help you elevate your emotional intelligence. So those are just 5 ways that you can help increase that emotional intelligence score within you. But what about exercises for healthy emotional balance? So stress mastery, of course. We master our mind. We take hold and capture those thoughts that are creating stress for us. And many of my clients get caught in a thought loop that creates a lot of stress. So they're thinking about the same thing over and over again and assuming scenarios within that creates the stress response within them. And that is what we need to master, is that mind loop, the mental loop that we can get into playing something over and over in our mind. So mastering that and stopping it. It has also been known and shown that you can name your emotions by simply saying, I am afraid of, or I am scared of, or I'm really angry right now. Just by naming that fizzles out that emotion that you're feeling, because it had you step out of the reaction that the amygdala was sending you at in the fight or flight response. Because if you have to name the emotion, then you got to use your thinking mind, and your thinking mind will pull you out of that stress response. The 6-second rule, where you wait 6 seconds to let that come forward through the pathway of the thalamus into the frontal cortex so you can make that decision. Breathing, breathing, y'all. Simply breathing will help you create more emotional ease within your body. Do several mindful breathing segments in your day. Long, slow, smooth, deep, and even breathing. Get very internal in your awareness as you're breathing, feeling the diaphragm expand and lower as you draw breath in. Hold it for just a moment. We'll feel the expansion of the intercostal muscles between each rib. And then as you exhale, feel the contraction of the diaphragm as it's pushing the air out. And then hold that and feel how the diaphragm can then go into relaxed state. And be very mindful of the physical nature of your breath, the sound of your breath, the feel of it going through your nostrils or through your mouth. Get very mindful and inside of that breath. 3 to 5 minutes at a time is very beneficial. And they're long and slow, y'all. No fast breathing here. We want to nourish the body-mind complex. And the way we do that is by slowly breathing. When we expand that diaphragm, the longest nerve of the body, the vagus nerve, longest parasympathetic nerve that we have, comes out of the brain and down both sides of the neck, through the heart, through the diaphragm, and into the intestines, the colon. And When that's going through the diaphragm, it massages the vagus nerve, and the toner the vagus nerve gets through that friction, the toner it gets, the more inclined your body will be to stay in a relaxed state of being. So when something happens out of the blue, you don't hop into that stress response. You're able to just be at ease. And then always one that is really good is we walk away. You just walk away. You remove yourself from the environment in which you're in, and you walk away. And you emotionally resolve once you walk away. And if you don't know how to emotionally resolve, then here's a little tip for you. You can go to your app store on your phone, and there is an emotional resolution app, and it's by the Emotional Health Institute. Get that app, and there are some videos on that app that tell you all about emotional resolution and how it can benefit you and how it works. And then you can choose to go deeper with the app. And I believe there's like a little fee. It's not very much, but a fee that you can pay that will help you learn how to emotionally resolve. And then if you would love a practitioner's help, you can either ask the app, submit something in the app that you would love help from a practitioner, or you can just contact me or ask for me, Ashley Torian, and I can help you with that emotional resolution. And it is in your app store, and it is, again, it's called Emotional Resolution App, and it's by the Emotional Health Institute. That's when you want to get. Now, there are two by them. One is for practitioners. You don't get that one. You get the one that is called Emotional Resolution by Emotional Health Institute. And there's a free version and then a paid version of that. And then if you want practitioner help, you simply contact Ashley Torian. You can message me through any of the social media platforms, and I can get right back to you. Ashley Frederick Torian. Yes. So isn't that fun? You can start today learning how to emotionally resolve so that you can improve your emotional intelligence exponentially. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you today. Be sure and reach out to me if I can help you in any way. I am always here. Thank you for joining us. This has been Ashley's Heart Song. I look forward to seeing you next week as we continue to armor up our lives. See you then.